Y'all see the title, man. Let's get to it. A little basketball history, man. Come on, man.
The 1970s have a unique distinction among the other decades in NBA history, and that's the fact that no team won back-to-back championships during that time. Today, I'll be doing my best to analyze why and how that happened.
Copy.
The 1971 New York Knicks. After winning the 1970 championship in iconic fashion, the Knicks made very few changes that offseason. In fact, it looked like the Knicks would have an even easier time in the East, now that the Milwaukee Bucks had moved to the Western Conference. The Knicks finished the 70-71 season with a 50-32 record. They defeated the Atlanta Hawks in a comfortable 5 games in the East semifinals, but during the series, Willis Reed suffered a left shoulder injury when he ran into Hawks center Walt Bellamy. The injury would have a big effect on Reed's shooting, as he only shot 41.3% from the field and 66.7% from the free throw line throughout the 1971 playoffs, both considerable dips in his usual shooting splits. But the Knicks had still made it to the East Finals, and their opponents were the Baltimore Bullets.
Hold on. I'm pretty sure I seen Walt Frazier just now. I'm pretty sure he was on the Knicks back then. Let me know. We watched the game back then too. I already forgot what team he was on. That's why you gotta watch things multiple times, man.
A team the Knicks had beaten twice in the last 2 postseasons. And better yet, Bullets power forward Gus Johnson was dealing with severe injuries that led to him only playing 2 games in the East Finals. But thanks to some incredible perseverance, the Bullets ended up pushing the Knicks to 7 games. Willis Reed's chronic bad knees were a factor as well. Wes Unseld was a killer on the boards this
I think I'm bugging. Wait, y'all let me know.
Series. He led 6 of the 7 games in total rebounds, and Gus Johnson's replacement, John Tresvant, also contributed greatly on that end. Jack Marin had a great series, but the real star of the East Finals was Earl Monroe. If I ever make a list of the greatest individual player battles, then Monroe versus Walt Frazier in the 71 East Finals would definitely be on it. Then Monroe versus Walt Frazier in the 71 East Finals would definitely be on it. Game 7 in Madison Square Garden was a super gritty and close game throughout, and despite Reed taking 2 pain-killing xylocaine shots in his knees, he was still able to have a great 24-point and 12-rebound game. But the Knicks' hero of Game 7 may have been the 35-year-old Dick Barnett, who got hot late in the first half to give the Knicks a lead, and who hit 3 clutch baskets in the 4th quarter. Within the final moments of the game, Baltimore's Jack Marin scored off a Monroe missed shot, and Fred Carter hit a shot to put the Bullets up 93-91 with 1:08 left in the game. The Knicks were able to secure the final possession, and in an attempt to tie the game, Bill Bradley took a shot off his dribble and missed. The game was over. The Bullets had won. The sold-out crowd of 19,000.
That looked like that's a pretty good form of a dribble pull-up jumper.
Attempts to tie the game, Bill Bradley took a shot off his dribble
form, though.
And missed. The game was over. The Bullets had won. The sold-out crowd of 19,500 fans in Madison Square Garden went completely silent. Of the accounts I've read, some claim it's the quietest the Garden has ever been. The 1972 Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks' 71-72 campaign is often overshadowed by the Lakers' legendary season, but record-wise, the Bucks were still one of the most elite teams in the league, as they finished 63-19, and were the team that famously snapped the Lakers' 33-game win streak. Kareem had gotten even better, as he would go on to claim his 2nd straight MVP, but across the roster, many players on the Bucks had declined slightly, or hadn't made much improvement from last season. Oscar Robertson ended up missing 18 games this season, but one of the more pressing issues was that 28 games into the season, the Bucks traded their starting power forward Greg Smith for Curtis Perry, a move that reportedly made Kareem very upset. In the playoffs, the Bucks beat the Warriors in 5 games, and met up with the Lakers in the West Finals.
Game 1 upset about that. That was his homie or something. That was his boy.
Was a Bucks blowout, 93-72. But there were some interesting circumstances surrounding the game. In order to televise the game, ABC technicians installed extra lights around the Forum. Several Lakers players, most notably Gail Goodrich, said the lighting was far too bright, and so did Lakers owner Jack Kent Cooke. So when the team scored 50 less points than their normal average, the complaints about the lighting became even louder. Bill Sharman also thought the bright lights took away home court advantage, so ABC had to take down the lights in the Forum. Kareem had a great series, but Oscar Robertson only averaged a takedown. Sharman also thought
That's why we see some games looking like this. You know, because I remember seeing a lot of games with the very bright court, almost a white court, it looked like. But I guess that was just because of lighting.
But the bright lights took away home court advantage, so ABC had to take down the lights in the Forum. Kareem had a great series, but Oscar Robertson only averaged 9 points on 36.1% shooting from the field. The Lakers had a ton of inefficiency problems throughout the series as well, especially Jerry West, who shot 34.8% from the field. Honestly, Jim McMillan was...
I think that's one of the games we react to. It was probably this season that we reacted to. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember Jerry was fake struggling. He was fake struggling. He fake got it together towards the end. But yeah, he was fake
the
struggling.
guy who saved the series for the Lakers, as well as Wilt Chamberlain, who started off slow, but he really stepped up for games 5 and 6. The 72 Bucks did put up a valiant effort in defending their title. The Lakers were just a little better. The 1973 Los Angeles Lakers. Of all the teams this decade, the 72 Lakers had the best chance of repeating, in my opinion. The 73 Lakers were pretty much a diet version of the 72 Lakers. You still had Wilt Chamberlain as a defensive anchor, Jerry West as a lethal scorer and distributor, Gail Goodrich leading the team in points per game, and Jim McMillan continuing to thrive under Bill Sharman. But Happy Hairston did only play 28 games this season due to injury. The Lakers did acquire Bill Bridges, who was able to take over the power forward role pretty well. The Lakers had also acquired Mel Counts, who worked as a stretch 4. Speaking of injuries, Jerry West missed 13 games due to his hamstring, but still, the Lakers were able to finish with a 60-22 record. They had a bit of a scare in their first playoff series against the Bulls, which went to 7 games, and the deciding game ended with the Lakers' win of 95-92.
I seen Wilt try to do that pass multiple times in some highlights. I ain't never seen him complete it.
Went to 7 games, and the deciding game ended with the Lakers' win of 95-92. Wilt Chamberlain has actually called this Chicago series the toughest playoff series of his career. In his 1973 autobiography, he actually says that he cried after the game was over and went into the Chicago Bulls locker room to compliment the team before he even went to the Lakers locker room. The Lakers then beat the Warriors to make the NBA Finals, where they were facing the team they had just beaten last year, the Knicks. The Lakers took Game 1 115-112, but New York then proceeded to win the next 4 straight to win the NBA championship. On the surface, it seems like this series was never really close, but it was actually closer than many remember. The following quotes are from Wilt's 1973 autobiography. In the 4th game, the Lakers came back from a 21-point deficit and trailed only 94-92 with 48 seconds left. Dave DeBusschere took a rebound that I had been fighting for with his teammate Willis Reed, and Dave just threw the ball up in the air, hoping to draw a foul, but, as he later admitted, never dreaming the ball would go in the basket. It went in though, and that destroyed our momentum. When Dave hit his free throw, the Knicks had the game wrapped up. In the very next game, the Lakers rallied from a 14-point fourth quarter deficit to cut the Knicks' lead to 84-80, with 3.5 minutes to play. When Jerry West missed an easy jump shot for us, the Lakers' Bill Bridges grabbed the rebound in close and put the ball in the basket, just as DeBusschere had in the previous game. I had a good view of the play, and it looked to me like Bill was fouled on the play, just as I had fouled DeBusschere in the previous game, but the official called it the other way. He said Bill committed the foul. Instead of the Lakers trailing just 84-83, assuming that Bridges made one of his 2 free throws, the Knicks got 2 free throws. Bill Bradley made them both, and the Knicks took an 86-80 lead. The official's call turned out to be a 5-point play, a 6-point Knick lead instead of a 1-point Knick lead. And that was the game, and the 1973 NBA championship. The 1974 New York Knicks. Willis Reed had missed almost all of the 1972 season due to injury.
Nobody winning the back-to-back is crazy. That's a very competitive league. You know what I'm saying? Well, or you could just say there's no true dominator of this generation, I guess you could say, or dominant team of this generation, I guess you could say. You know.
He was able to squeeze out just about every last bit of talent he had in 1973, because he also practically missed the entire 73-74 season, finishing with just 19 games played. In the playoffs, he only averaged 3.4 points per game. He then retired at the end of the season. 1974 was actually the final season for a lot of the Knicks' key players. Dave DeBusschere retired after this season, primarily due to an abdominal muscle strain. The injury led to him coming off the bench for the playoffs, and after the Knicks ended up losing to the Celtics Celtics in the East Finals, DeBusschere was quoted as saying, "I have had a good career. Basketball has been good to me. I probably could have played 2 more years, but I know I can't do what I did when I was 24 years old, especially when I look at Cowens out there." Jerry Lucas was a similar case. At 34 years old, he just didn't have that physicality he used to have, and considering Willis Reed was dealing with chronic injuries, the center position was a big problem for the team this season. The Knicks decided to lean on future Hall of Fame coach Phil Jackson, as well as the 6'10" John Giannelli to help try and solve their front court woes.
I never knew Phil Jackson. Wait, I think we've seen this in we know. Did we hear that before? We might have heard that before though, because I'm pretty sure it sounds familiar now as I'm hearing it again. Phil Jackson.
This was Dick Barnett's final season as well, and he went out with a whimper, with just 5 games played at the start of the season. Walt Frazier was really the guy who was carrying this team, which is even more impressive considering Earl Monroe ended up missing half of the season because of surgery. Ultimately, the Knicks finished the 73-74 season with a 49-33 record. Despite their struggles, the Knicks were able to stick it to their late 60s, early 70s rival one last time, the Bullets, who were the Capitol Bullets, just for this one season, because of their move to Landover, Maryland. In Game 7, John Giannelli had the best game of his career. Without Willis Reed, he got the start and held Elvin Hayes to 12 points, and he even out-rebounded Hayes as well. The Knicks made it to the East Finals, but as previously mentioned, they ended up losing to the Boston Celtics in 5 games. The 1975 Boston Celtics. This is probably one of the more boring entries on the list, as there wasn't any huge drama or major event that went down that prevented this team from defending their championship. What the Celtics' 74-75 season failure boiled down to was some slight player drop-offs and getting outplayed in the playoffs. In a preseason game against the Milwaukee Bucks, though, Dave Cowens ended up breaking his foot, which meant he wasn't available for the first month of the season. Boston started 10-8, but after Cowens returned, they improved to 34-14 by the end of January. Surprisingly, Don Nelson ended up having a career year at 34
So he had a big impact
years
on
old,
that team.
leading the league in field goal percentage with 14 points and 5.9 rebounds on 53.9% from the field. The Celtics finished the 74-75 season with a 60-22 record, tied with the Washington Bullets for best in the league. They defeated the Houston Rockets in 5 games in the East Semis, and then met up with the Bullets in the East Finals. This retooled Bullets team matched up incredibly well with the Celtics. Throughout the series, they did a good job at stopping Boston from running the fast break, and guys like Elvin Hayes and Phil Chenier dominated in the 6 games. As a whole, the Celtics were pretty inefficient from the field this series. Paul Silas shot 33.3%, Havlicek and Cowens both shot 39%, JoJo White shot 40.1%, and Don Chaney shot 42.9%. The only Celtic who really shot well from the field was Don Nelson, with 51.4%. The 1976 Golden State Warriors. This is probably the most contentious and debatable entry on this list, so I'm very eager to hear what you guys out there have to say about it in the comments. After shocking the basketball world by sweeping the Bullets in 4 games, Golden State only continued to improve the following season. They finished the 75-76 season with a 59-23 record, the best in the league. Rick Barry was still as dominant as ever, but you also had Jamal Wilkes and Phil Smith put up great numbers as second-year players.
Name Rick Barry. I heard that before.
Still as dominant as ever, but you also had Jamal Wilkes and Phil Smith put up great numbers as second-year players. Really, the only piece the Warriors lost after winning the championship was point guard Butch Beard. But then again, they drafted an all-rookie and future all-NBA guard, Gus Williams. Williams put up numbers that were at least comparable to Beard's on paper. And besides, with Phil Smith having an explosive season, the backcourt didn't seem like it was in too much jeopardy. The Warriors defeated the Detroit Pistons in 6 games in the West Semis, and moved on to the West Finals. Their opponent were the Phoenix Suns, who were returning to the playoffs after a 5-year Finals. Their opponent were the Phoenix Suns, who were returning to the playoffs after a 5-year drought. They had a few veteran players, but for the most part, the Suns consisted mostly of rookies and young guys, and of those veterans, the only key players with deep playoff experience were Paul Westphal and Curtis Perry. Nevertheless, the Suns played their hearts out and pushed the series to 7 games. The 7th game is the most infamous game of the series. In the first half, Barry gets into a fight with the Suns. The game is the most infamous game of the series. In the first half,
boy. But nah, I thought you only had to win 3 games for series back then. Or was that just one of Mike's series? I think, you know, because I'm pretty sure Mike. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. You know what I'm saying.
Barry gets
I'm
into a
pretty sure
fight with the
he-
Suns'
at
Ricky
one point he was
Sobers,
playing
and the popular story is that
first
when
three
Barry
wins.
saw playback footage of this fight at halftime, he got so angry he decided not to shoot in the second half as a protest against his team, because his teammates didn't come and help him. Articles at the time and a few Suns players all said how Barry
Come on,
quit on his
Barry.
team,
I'm
but
saying,
I'm not so half footage of this fight at half Ricky Sobers, and the popular series in the first half, Barry gets into a fight with the Suns' Ricky Sobers, and the popular story is that when Barry saw playback footage of this fight at halftime, he got so angry he decided not to shoot in the second half as
standing there like looking like I ain't gonna lie, I feel him. I feel him. What's up?
protest against his
Not gonna help
team
me?
because his teammates didn't come and help him.
saying, I
Articles at the
would not
time
shoot,
and a
though.
few Suns
Me
players
personally.
all said how Barry quit on his team, but I'm not so sure it's as simple as that. Barry himself says that he never even saw playback footage at halftime, and he denies the claim that he was mad at his teammates. Knowing the type of competitor he was, yeah, I also find it kind of hard to believe that he would blow another trip to the finals for petty reasons. And besides, when you watch this footage, they're not totally abandoning him. Yeah,
Nah, yeah, they right there, and it's not like the other people on the other team was actually punching him. It's more so just a little grabbing, little, you know what I'm saying, little shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I don't know.
yes, Barry
I
did
would
play
never
pretty
let that
passive in
affect
the
my
second
game,
half, preferring to mostly pass rather than
I'll just have to tell my teammates about themselves, you know what I'm saying? In the locker room, like, yo, I ain't gonna lie, y'all niggas is soft. What y'all doing? You know what I'm saying?
shoot,
Come on,
but
bro.
his passes are all on
Supposed to ride together,
target.
die
It
together,
just doesn't
yeah.
look to me like a guy who
Use
totally gave up on his
Like,
team.
come on, man.
I think that the playback footage fight story was just a narrative that seemed so entertaining, it caught on like wildfire. But that's just my opinion. I don't know what happened. I don't think we ever truly will know what was going on in Rick Barry's head. The Warriors actually had a chance to win this series in earlier games, but a few mistakes prevented them from doing so. First, at the end of Game 4, Derek Dickey made one of two free throws to give the Warriors a 2-point lead. That missed free throw ended up costing Golden State the game, because seconds later, the Suns' Keith Erickson hit a game-tying shot to send the game into overtime, where the Suns ultimately prevailed. And towards the end of Game 6, Phil Smith was playing a bit of hero
That's a tough lay, but you gotta count your pennies, man. They free.
ball. The Warriors were down 105 to 104 with 5 seconds left, and as the final play of the game, Smith decided to drive for the basket. He couldn't get a shot off, so he passed to Jamal Wilkes in the corner, who was then blocked by Gar Hurd. Rick Barry and Dwight Davis had better looks at the basket, but we'll never know what would have happened if Smith passed to one of those two guys. The 1977 Boston Celtics. People forget that after winning the 1976 championship, Dave Cowens was seen by many as the best player in the NBA. That's how good he was at his peak, which makes it all the more strange what went down in the 76-77 season. First off, Don Nelson, who had been a key piece for the team throughout the 60s and 70s, retired. Then, the Celtics didn't re-sign their power forward.
Though. This is the beginning of the NBA, well, the beginning of really beginning of basketball, you know?
60s and
So I
70s,
understand.
retired. Then, the Celtics
Line it up.
didn't re-sign their power forward,
nigga.
Paul Silas. Instead, they shipped him off to the Denver Nuggets. And this would be a decision that would come back to bite the Celtics in a big way. Cowens was good friends with Silas, and he was apparently very unhappy that Boston traded their all-defense power forward away just like that. Two new players the Celtics acquired were former All-Stars Curtis Rowe and Sidney Wicks. Good players, but both saw considerable drops in production once they joined Boston, making the front court much weaker than it used to be. This is probably one of the only front office mistakes Red Auerbach ever made. The Celtics started out the season with 4 wins, but then lost the next 4 straight. Then, Cowens made one of the strangest decisions in NBA history. He said that he was stepping away from the team for an indefinite amount of time. His main reason that he cited at the time was that he didn't have an enthusiasm for basketball anymore, though some speculate it was really because of—
I hear that a lot, yeah. I hear that a lot, you know. People just say they lost passion for the game. You know what I'm saying? And at a point when you've been doing something for so long, you probably do need a break. But retiring,
beef between him and Tom Heinsohn, as well as his new teammates. Besides Michael Jordan, it's hard to think of many other guys from NBA history who quit right when they were at their peak. But like Mike, Cowens' retirement wasn't permanent. He returned to the Celtics on January 14th, finishing the
basically just a little break. Like, I'd rather they had done that than retired, because that is like, I mean, fuck it, it's their career. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they ain't come back, so it's whatever.
42 games left in the season, but as the Cowens problem was seemingly resolved, a new problem arose. Charlie Scott ended up missing all of February and March due to injuries. In total, he played just 43 games all season. The Celtics finished 1977 with a 44-38 record, ending the
That's still more games than some of these cats playing now, man. That's what I'm saying.
5-season streak of 50-win seasons. This was likely due to 1977 being the ABA merger season. In total, only 3 teams in 77, as well as 78 and 79, finished with 50 or more wins. Despite these issues, the Celtics managed to pick up what few pieces they had and put together a spirited playoff run. They started it by beating George Gervin and the San Antonio Spurs. Then, they met up with the Philadelphia 76ers in the East semis, led by Dr. J, George McGinnis, Doug Collins, World B. Free, and Daryl Dawkins. This series ended up going to 7 games, with impressive performances on both sides. The Celtics took Game 1 thanks to a JoJo White buzzer beater, and Cowens had a ridiculous 37-point, 21-rebound performance. JoJo White buzzer beater, and Cowens had a ridiculous...
Cowens. I gotta...
Both sides. The Celtics took Game 1 thanks to a JoJo White buzzer beater, and Cowens had a ridiculous...
Callens? Is this Callens? Someone put his name in the comments right now. I missed his first name. I'm sorry. I definitely did. Yo, I thought there was a lot of body bags back in the day. It's just the fact that we didn't get to see them because it wasn't really recorded like that, bro. In the social media. I ain't gonna lie, they catching bodies. I didn't expect this, bro. I didn't expect, you know what I'm saying? This is the 70s.
37-point, 21-rebound
That's a
performance.
body, like, you know? You know, like when you know what I'm saying, they absorb the contact a little bit.
White
you know?
buzzer beater,
like,
and Cowens had a ridiculous 37-point, 21-rebound performance in Game 4. Both teams slowed down considerably in Game 7 at the Spectrum. The Sixers held the Celtics to 30% shooting from the field, and World B. Free scored a game-high 27 points off the bench. The Sixers managed to win 83-77. John Havlicek retired in 1978, and the Celtics managed to win 83-77. John Havlicek retired in 1978, and the Celtics would fall into a 2-year rut before drafting Larry Bird, making the 77 East semis sort of the last hoorah for the Havlicek and Cowens Celtics.
Cowens.
The 1978 Portland Trail Blazers. This team might have the easiest thing to blame for their failure, and that's Bill Walton's foot injury towards the end of the season. I touched on this more in my 70s Trailblazer video, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much. After winning the 77 championship, the Blazers decided to run it back with the same squad, and somehow, Bill Walton looked like he was getting even better. Despite only playing 58 games, he was still selected as the 1978 MVP. In an attempt to have Walton back on the floor for the Blazers' first playoff series versus the Supersonics.
MVP is tough, even though it's a media award. MVP is still tough. If you are able to win the MVP award, you know, that means you're an MVP caliber player for that season at least, you know. Come on.
The team doctor urged Walton to take a painkiller injection in his broken foot, but Walton putting pressure on his foot only made the situation worse, and he ended up playing just 2 games in the series, which the Blazers ultimately lost in 6 games. Walton's anger towards the team for potentially ruining his career led to a lawsuit against the team doctor, and Walton sitting out the entire 1979 season and demanding a trade. The 1979 Washington Bullets. Like the Blazers, the Bullets decided to run it back with the
bench too. He looked like he was upset when he was on the bench just now.
Same roster after winning the 1978 championship. After going 44-38 the previous season, the Bullets captured a more respectable 54-28 record in 1979, making them the only 50-win team in the East that year. That didn't make the playoffs easier for them though. The Bullets started the postseason off with back-to-back 7-game series against the Hawks and Spurs, and the Bullets almost lost the San Antonio series. They had to come back from a 3-1 series deficit. The Bullets had a rematch of the 1978 finals versus the Seattle Supersonics. The Bullets and Sonics were sort of complete opposites of each other. The Sonics were much younger and faster, while the 3 stars on the Bullets had been in the league for 10 or more seasons. The Bullets ended up winning Game 1 thanks to Larry Wright's 26 points off the bench, and a foul call at the 11th hour that gave him 3 free throws. But due to injuries to starting guards Tom Henderson and Kevin Greavy, as well as overall poor shooting from the Bullets, the Sonics won the next 4 straight to claim their first NBA championship, and unless Seattle gets their team back, probably their only championship.
Sheesh, and I've been hearing about NBA expansion and all that. I've been hearing people say that NBA is looking to expand over the world as well. I ain't gonna lie, that would be so fire, bro. That's what y'all know what to do, man. Tell me how y'all feel in the comments. You know what I'm saying? Click on the last reaction, share the video with your peoples though. Make sure you like the video. Liking the video is very important. It takes 1 second. I appreciate you, my brother and my sister. You know what I'm saying? My fault. Okay, forget my sisters. You know what I'm saying? I'm out of here. Or